Proud supporters of Africa this week. Engine, with us, you are number one.
This being Youth Month in South Africa, the Branson Centre of Entrepreneurship has revealed its first National Youth Upstart Report, a research study into South Africa's youth and their attitudes towards entrepreneurship. Ian Culvert, the founder of the agency Instant Grass, explained its findings.
The study that we conducted on behalf of the Branson Centre of Entrepreneurship was not immediately to propose the solution, but identify what the issues are. And I think there are a number of really interesting findings. I think firstly, there is creativity in abundance amongst South African youth. But often there's a lack of understanding in terms of exactly what it takes to start a new business. Some people think that having a good idea is all it takes. But I think what's been identified in our study is that way beyond just a good idea and some money to make it happen. A lot of it is the absence of skills development and mentorship and really a real life experience of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Right. So I think certainly the government, like many governments in the rest of Africa, see small businesses as the future of the economy, and they're trying to do what they can to put in place the assistance. But sometimes that assistance is mired in red tape, and a lot of the young people who don't have that experience of going through those systems end up being frustrated as a result.
Okay, we'll talk about these various elements that you've referred to. Now, obviously, the solution that's being put forward is entrepreneurship. The question is, do young South Africans have the wherewithal to start their own business? I mean, only about 8% in this research said they were planning to start a business in the next year. Others were sitting on great ideas, but just weren't prepared to take the risk to lead them to fruition.
Well, that's right. I think when you talk about the wherewithal to start the business, obviously the wherewithal has a financial component. So a lot of young people don't have the financial support or backing to start that new business, and a lot of them do think that maybe they should be looking to get a job initially, firstly because they realize that they don't necessarily have the business experience and skills. But I think importantly, yes, only 8% said they were going to start a business this year, but a much higher percentage, nearly 50% of people, said that at some stage they did believe that with the right amount of experience and a little bit of money under their belt, that they would want to start a business. So I think there is this sort of latent entrepreneurship amongst a vast majority of the youth out there, but there is this acknowledgement from a lot of them that they're not equipped just yet. So I don't think we must write off the young entrepreneurs, the young Patrice Mosepes of the future just yet. But there is at least, it's a good sign that they realize that they need more skills, more wherewithal, as you say, to be able to make a success of their businesses.
I mean, earlier on you presented the major limitations being access to capital or some sort of collateral, as well as expertise and skills. The President's launched a job fund, which effectively is directed at encouraging businesses to hire young people and wages being subsidized. But is enough attention being given to creating some sort of an SME entrepreneurship fund for young people who want to start a business?
Well, I think, again, the government is trying, but I think the experience that a lot of the young people that we spoke to felt, as I mentioned earlier, that there was, to actually engage with these government-based institutions, there was a lot of red tape, that a lot of the people that they were dealing with, through no fault of their own, are not entrepreneurially minded. You know, that ultimately they work for the state. And I think there was a sense that government should stick to funding entrepreneurship, but I think the youth are looking to the private sector and existing business to try and equip them with the skills and the mentorship, which is so vital. So I think the government obviously is very well intentioned, but I think there are some stumbling blocks in the delivery of that intention to help young people start those businesses.
This idea of mentorship, are there enough incubator programs? I know Richard Branson has one in Nigeria, Tony Elumelu started one, but is enough being done? It seems like there's just too few and far between.
That's right, and I think whilst the youth said, you know, it's up to private enterprise to provide those mentorship programs, they still gave them a pretty mediocre score in terms of what they're actually doing. And I think that just highlights the need for more initiatives like the Branson Centre, where, and I think a key thing to point out here is the issue of role models and mentors. You know, so many people look up to, you know, they know of the Richard Bransons and the Oprah Winfreys of this world, and they know of the Tokyo Sequales and the Patrice Mossepis, but what they really need is somebody that they can actually engage with, who's walked the path, who they have access to. And obviously somebody like Richard Branson can't read everybody's business plan, but at least by funding something like the Branson Centre, they're able to provide very hands-on practical guidance to the young entrepreneurs who've shown some propensity to make it work. So the short answer to your question is no, not enough is being done across the board within private enterprise to support young entrepreneurs, but I think there are pockets where some real strides are being taken, and I think that's where we need to focus.
Continuing with our coverage of Youth Day in South Africa, this past Thursday, Buntu Williams caught up with John Manyike, Head of Financial Education at Old Mutual, to discuss the issues of creating a savings culture amongst the youth in South Africa.
Well, one of the things that we're facing, you know, in driving or promoting financial literacy is the fact that people don't find financial topics very interesting, especially the youth. So you've got to find ways of making the topics more interesting and using social media to actually get to the youth to the extent that the issues that you're addressing become and make more sense to them.
And very importantly, it must be quite a challenge to have to talk to people about saving at a time of a depressed economic cycle.
Well, I must be honest, it's quite a challenge to get people to save. But what is really critical here is to actually begin to create awareness about the dangers that people face if they don't save for retirement, for example. Because if you don't pay attention to that, there's a danger of a person retiring into poverty simply because they didn't make enough savings there. So you have to create that awareness. But most importantly, to create the awareness to the youth as well, that at some point, you will become the sandwich generation, where you have to support both the parents and the children as well. So the best chance for youth to start saving is when they are younger, when they've got a disposable income and fewer financial obligations. And because that is the best time, because once they start getting married and then they get into a new cycle where they need more funds, and unfortunately the income would be shrinked at that point.
South African corporations by and large seem to have financial education programs. Are these succeeding?
Well, not much though. The Old Mutual Savings Monitor indicates that 31% of the age group of 18 to 24 are actually starting to save more. They actually save more compared to the previous year. However, in general, we still are saving less as a country. So it is important, and our view is that we need to begin to invest in the education at the foundation level. So we have begun that process as Old Mutual, where we've made a significant investment in sponsoring development of a financial literacy toolkit, which we piloted to 1,000 schools in 2010 in collaboration with the Department of Basic Education. And we are continuing to discuss with them to look at ways of rolling that out into the senior phase and the matriculants and so on. And we believe that's the angle that corporate South Africa need to support government in driving that, to stimulate the culture of saving.
And that's when they can even provide jobs.
Well, and that's a good thing. I'm glad you mentioned that, you know, because it also means that we also need to promote entrepreneurship in this country. We can't be training young people to wear suits and carry laptops to become employees. We need to begin to train them and upskill them to become entrepreneurs, because the trends around the world is that SMMEs are the biggest employers and they contribute significantly to the GDP of economies around the world. So we have to put more investment in that area to pledge as part of our social responsibility.
So the real challenge is to get young South Africa to save. Suppose they did, what would be the knock-on effect on the economy?
Clearly, savings are a key driver of economic growth. I mean, a country that doesn't save, it doesn't grow. So we believe that that's a starting point, and we need to really encourage more and more people to save. But there has to be something for the individual who is saving to say, what am I saving for? People need to understand that when you save, it's not just about saving. You need to save for a particular goal, and you need to take a long-term view two reasons as to why you're saving. And the reason why people don't save and they end up lapsing their policies is because they haven't really embraced the fact that I'm saving for a particular goal. And that's the angle that I believe corporate South Africa need to be pushing, especially within the financial services industry.
Staying with our youth coverage, it's a well-known fact that young people are facing the real problem of accessing jobs and good opportunities. But this year, government has allocated more resources and education and more skills, and some young people are intent on taking advantage of this. CNBC Africa's Ashley Evans reports.
Luke Taylor is just an average 14-year-old South African teenager with a remarkable passion for programming. Coined as a robotics junkie, his innovation will take him to California next month, where he'll compete as one of just 15 finalists in the inaugural Google Science Fair.
And they say it's to be one of the biggest science fairs ever hosted. It calls all young scientists around the world to enter and endorse their passions.
Luke's knowledge in computer science and robotics is self-taught, which for many makes his achievement even more impressive.
For Luke to be showing these sorts of attributes at his young age of grade 9 is really impressive. We're delighted with his achievement. But not only his achievement, but also the person he is, because he's modest and unassuming, and he has, as one of his mottos, failure is fuel for success. He's always up for a challenge.
I got the idea with my friend because he couldn't program his robot, the Mindstorm set, and I thought maybe he could program his robot in English. So I created it for people to program the robots in English. The software works like this. You have a text editor and you write in your sentences, and then it goes word by word and looks for the most important words. And then when it finds like a verb, say move, then it goes looking for more details. So how long must I move, at which speed, which direction, and then it writes out the computer code.
But Luke's invention is not only innovative, but can also be applied in medical environments.
Rural areas or hospitals, you could use this for patients and stuff. So say a patient needs a glass of water, but they can't reach it, and a nurse is not available, then I think they could say it's like something around the lines of, robot, fetch me a glass of water.
But for Luke, his vision does not end here.
After school, I'd like to study at MIT in America. Maybe eventually work at NASA or Google, or maybe create my own company.
Being the only African amongst the finalists, he hopes to put his country on the map.